Hello there! Welcome back to Star Wars in a Galaxy, watching all the Star Wars we can get our hands on. I'm Eli.
I'm Jacob.
We are back, baby! Our last post was, of course, the incredible epic confrontation, the Pink Milk Civil War. We're so glad so many of you enjoyed it, and we were going to post an episode, the following Friday, but we could not due to scheduling conflicts, but here it is right now. We have an incredible episode for you. Character Appreciation Day is coming back. We are doing Character Appreciation Day in honor of Andor, which is coming up very soon. We thought we'd do a Character Appreciation Day on a central figure in Andor, which is Senator Mon Mothma of Shantrilla, who's the founder of the rebellion and eventually becomes the Chancellor of the New Republic. And we're excited to do a deep dive, one of our deep dives into this fantastic character. So how Character Appreciation Day works is we have 5 fun facts. We talk about our favorite portrayal, favorite piece of media, 3 best allies, 3 best enemies, and best 5 moments. Jacob, anything you want to add before we just get into this? So good being back.
No, let's go. Let's get it.
Okay, so let's trade off. Okay, so 5 fun facts. Go with your number 5. I don't have my 5 in any order, really.
Yeah,
But
me neither. Yeah, I can start out.
yeah.
So I guess I'll start from the beginning because mine are sort of in order of life story, and I thought interesting. So, interestingly enough, her mother, Mon Mothma's mother, was a governor on Chandrila, and her father was an arbiter general, whatever that means, for the Republic. So, a political career for her um, was seen by her and her family as kind of her destiny. However, as a teenager, she did actually veer away from politics. She became quite a good smash ball player and pursued her true passion of being a historian. However, she eventually returned to politics because of family pressure and a genuine love of civil service. So, although it seemed preordained, her path to, becoming a very young senator, becoming this great figure in Rebel Alliance was anything but a straight shot.
I love the fact that she was like, okay, I'm gonna rebel from politician to historian.
Yeah.
That's her rebellious. That's frankly hilarious. That's great. My first one is about the event that propelled Mon Mothma to create the Rebel Alliance in the first place, which is the Gorman Massacre. The Gorman Massacre is the direct like she was planning the rebellion for a long time, but the direct instigation came after the Gorman Massacre. We have information about it in both canon and legends. It took place 2 years before the Battle of Yavin in canon, and it took place. Let's see, it took place 18 years before the Battle of Yavin in legends, and in legends I know that Grand Moff Tarkin was involved in it. In canon, we have no evidence that he was, but basically, it was there was a peaceful protest in on the planet of Gorman, and in Legends we know it's because of protesting Imperial taxation. But anyway, Imperial stormtroopers opened fire on peaceful protesters on the planet Gorman, and Senator Mothma was appalled by this, and so she specifically called basically like the Boston Massacre of the Galactic Civil War was the Gorman Massacre.
I see, I see.
And it was the event that propelled Mothma to create the Rebel Alliance in the first place, in both canon and legends. Uh, what's your second one?
So I'm gonna break my own precedent. I'm going to go out of order, but I will kind of add on because one of my facts has to do with the Gun Master. So I'll spare some of the same details, but yeah, she is more or less responsible. Not only, obviously going back to the very beginning with Bail Organa, with Amidala, with the secret meetings that they had, and at the time of Order 66, they kind of had this verbal, almost unspoken agreement to kind of create a rebellion, to create resistance. But yeah, she is actually directly responsible as well, more or less, for unifying the scattered rebel cells of the rebels age into the cohesive rebel alliance that we see in the original trilogy that takes the Empire head on. Um, After years of trying to resist the Empire through speaking out in the Senate, being that lone voice of resistance in the Senate, using the old institutionalist ways, as said, she crossed the line into BBY in Canada. After condemning the Norman massacre, she was put at the top of the Empire's most wanted list. And it was actually the ghost crew of Phoenix Cell in Star Wars Rebels. Amazing episode. Go check it out. Who helped her escape to get her a meeting on Dantooine. And it was aboard the Ghost that she broadcast her iconic speech to the galaxy, calling for people of the galaxy to stand in unity against the Empire. And this resulted in, Eli, as you said, kind of the first true gathering of the Rebel fleet, as all the various Rebel cells from around the galaxy jumped to Dantooine in response to her call, kind of beginning the true Rebel Alliance as one cohesive unit.
Absolutely. My second fact for fun fact about Mon Mothma is the original actress who played Mon Mothma was an actress named Carolyn Blakiston, and Blakiston, one of her credits, of course, was Return of the Jedi when she was originally as Mothma. And she told the story of people would come up to her when she was in theater productions, and they were like, "You were in Star Wars Return of the Jedi?" And she was like, "Yes, but only for 26 and a half seconds." So her entire appearance, the entire character of Mon Mothma, was based off of a 26 and a half second appearance in Return of the Jedi.
That kind of sums up the magic of Star Wars right there. You can create such an amazing character from an original, a near Glup Shadow level appearance.
She really was
Glup such Shadow an iconic character.
Jedi. Yeah,
that's kind of she's kind of the ultimate like Glup Shadow glow up if you think about it.
Probably
like,
after Boba. Yeah.
This lady. Yeah. Absolutely. So my next fun fact, Mon Mothma joined the Senate in 32 BBY, right at the time of the Naboo crisis. She was only 14 at the time, so became one of the youngest senators we know in Star Wars canon. During her Senate career, she was selected to be a member of Palpatine's Loyalist Committee, a group of senators kind of tasked with, pretty self-explanatory, trying to keep up list Republic sentiment. But she's also an outspoken opponent of the war and increased military spending. So this kind of brings me to an aside, which is, what is it with Star Wars really iconic, badass female characters especially, and being way too young for the responsibilities given to them? Like, Padme was 14 when she was the queen of an entire planet. Yeah. Leia was out here at 16, 15, like
I was gonna say, like,
and
frankly,
also secretly, like, Ahsoka was 14 during the Battle of Geonosis. Leia was 16. She was secretly running the Rebel Alliance.
Rey was 19 when she. I mean, 19 is a Star Wars age, but still, Rey was 19. Yeah. Leia was like 10 in freaking Kenobi when she was like, doing all that stuff. Omega was like 12.
Oh my God, Omega! I don't even want to. Yeah, I forgot Omega.
And by the way, she was the oldest member of the Bad Batch. She's the oldest member, and she was like 12.
Yeah, I don't even want to get into the clones. That's crazy. But all I'm gonna say is, at least Luke got to wait until he was legally an adult to have the fate of the galaxy resting on his shoulders. Yes.
Though I will say,
Mon Mothma,
in all fairness,
she didn't have the same privilege.
in all fairness, I'm not saying these are the same, because they're not. There is one male character I can think of who had to do stuff from a really young age, which is Anakin.
Yeah, that is true.
At 9, he was like, determining the fate of Jedi and stuff like that. But no, it's really creepy how they do that with especially young female characters.
It's weird, and Anakin's the only one who's super like messed up and traumatized and carries the weight of having such shocking, crazy experiences at such a young age. Like Ahsoka, she seems to be doing fine. Leia doing fine.
They're forced to deal with it
somehow they're unaffected by that. Not unaffected, but it's
And Ezra too.
compared
Ezra
to
also
Anakin,
was gathered at a young age, but
Ezra, yeah,
he had time to have trauma, but none of the women did. So,
yeah. Well, he
um,
had, he had like he it was for his not Star Wars level trauma that he had, I would say, at a young age. Star Wars doesn't consider that trauma, being out in the streets on your own, fighting, pickpocketing to survive,
I
that's
mean,
just standard stuff for Star Wars.
yes, but like like all the stuff with his
Yeah, no, no.
parents and what happened to them and all
Obviously,
that
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of stuff.
no.
They pay a lot of attention to that. Next,
Yeah, no, yeah, totally. I'm being a little bit facetious. I was just having
yeah,
fun with this
no,
thing that I just
absolutely,
thought of when I was
no,
writing.
absolutely.
Um,
I think I have the third one now, right?
all right, yeah, go for it.
I want to talk about the Cantham House talks. The Cantham
Oh
House
yes, the
talks,
Cat the Mouse talks.
which were the talks in which Senator Mon Mothma led them with her fellow Senator Bail Organa. Padme Amidala was also there for quite a few of them, and other senators like Fang Zar, I know, was one of them. I think this might just be completely wrong, but I feel like in canon, what's her name? Shoot, Senator Chuchi of Pantora was also there.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and these were the talks of in the Republic time of saying, hey, the Chancellor, he was the Chancellor then, not the Emperor yet, because the Republic hadn't been turned into the Empire. The Chancellor seems to be gaining a little too much power that seems good for a democracy to have. And we should start doing this. And there were actually a bunch of deleted scenes in Revenge of the Sith in which Mothma and Organa and Amidala and those other senators were trying to address that the before Order 66 happened and before the Republic was transformed completely into the Empire by Palpatine.
Yeah, the talks were very interesting as you said it perfectly. I kind of alluded to the idea that the rebellion was kind of a glimmer in their eyes for a very, very long time. Even before Order 66, you could say. Let's see if my next fact, bit of a shorter one, but Mon Mothma actually Princess Leia from a very early age. In my research, from the sources that I had, it's unclear whether she knew of Leia's true true identity, but I suspect that
I,
she did.
I believe she did in canon at least.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, but I couldn't find positive confirmation of that. At least not on Wikipedia or in from a certain point of view or the Rebel Files, which is where I pulled a lot of this good stuff from. But she became Leia's political tutor and was a mentor for her during her time in the Senate. So another cool connection there.
Yeah, by the way, I just looked on Wikipedia. Mothma showed her personal support for Leia after it was publicly revealed that she was the daughter of Darth Vader. Her message to Leia indicated that she had suspected the truth for some time before the announcement. So, she probably knew.
That's that's fair. That's fair.
Let's see. My fourth fact. Carolyn Blakiston wanted to be the original actress of Mon Mothma wanted to be in Revenge of the Sith. They had to recast a Mothma because Blakiston was too old to play the young Mothma in the movie, and they cast Genevieve O'Reilly, who's continued playing Mothma up until this day in not only in Revenge of the Sith, but in Rogue One, in Rebels, and now in Andor. Um, uh, but uh, but O'Reilly wanted to see if she could be Mon Mothma's grandmother in Revenge of the Sith. Unfortunately, that role could not be worked into the final film.
That's a bummer. That's a bummer. You know, it would have been cool to see her be able to come back, as she kind of originated what became such a cool character. Yeah, let's my final fun fact. During the Battle of Adelon, when Ezra Bridger as Thrawn's Seventh Fleet is closing in on the Phoenix Cell and the Masasi group, he escapes. Um, he sends a call for help. Mon Mothma actually refused Ezra Bridger's call for help. Um, she refuses and the main rebel fleet to save Doom and Masasi groups. And I think it was actually right, although it seems like a callous decision at face value, getting involved, as she rightly feared, would probably only play into Thrawn's hands. And even the full might of the Rebel fleet at that time could not stand up to the Seventh Fleet, which was a very large, very powerful, and very expertly led fleet. Um, and yeah, this ended up being a wise decision. Coming in for the rescue could have crippled or even destroyed the very fleet that later helped steal the Death Star plans, which obviously, saves the rebellion from certain doom.
Yeah, it was an extremely tough decision. I watched Zero Hour very recently for my Rebels rewatch, and it's so interesting to see the debates between Ezra and Senator Mothma, and then later the debates that finally get the Mandalorians to help between Ezra and Sabine and Ursa and Tristan. It was a very dark moment for the rebellion, and I applaud season 3 of Rebels for how well it handled that. Um,
Yeah, it was excellent. Absolutely excellent. Watch it if you have it. Shout out
uh,
Rebels.
Shout out
Excellent
Rebels.
show.
Um, uh, I want to talk about this is a Legends fact. Um,
Ooh,
so in Legends, Mothma was elected the first Chancellor of the New Republic, um, and there is an event where an ambassador for the planet of Carida named Fergan threw a drink in Mon Mothma's face.
wow.
But it turns out that they were not. It wasn't just a drink. They actually had a Fergan actually made nano destroyers, and the nano destroyers were in the drink, and so they actually made the nano destroyers made Mon Mothma very very sick. So it was like revolting to see, but like actually the intentions were much more sinister. But Mothma eventually did recover. But I just thought that was a crazy thing that happened in Legends. This is all in the Legends book. It's in the Jedi Academy trilogy by Kevin J. Anderson. In Legends, which is fantastic, and I love a lot of the ideas that delivers, and I just thought that was really fascinating.
Oh, yeah. A very interesting fact.
Best portrayal. We have two choices here, and I'm not going to be shocked if we pick the same thing here. Who do you have for best portrayal of Mon Mothma?
Genevieve O'Reilly. I mean,
Yeah,
as much as
Carolyn Blakiston was
the other
great,
one too.
but yeah, Carolyn
Yeah,
Blakiston was great, but at the end of the day, it was 26 and a half seconds, and I love the more nuanced view of Mothma that O'Reilly has given us in Revenge of the Sith, in Rebels, in Rogue One, and now in Andor, where I'm hoping she's going to have this very much enhanced role.
no, yeah, I'm absolutely. I think I'm very excited to see what she does in Andor, and already both Rebels, Clone Wars, the voice acting, everything, the live action. She's just done a really good job of bringing this character to life, doing it in a consistent way across really bringing that consistency to the character across different mediums, across different shows and movies, which I definitely appreciate.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see, best piece of media. What are you gonna say? We're best piece of media.
Best media contingency plan. I just love the focus on Mon Mothma's perspective. She's a character, she has a lot of importance, but she's often kind of a very stoic figure, in the background, kind of very, very set in her role. We don't really see much inside of her mind, what's going on. We just see the very calm facade of the strong-willed, soft-spoken leader of the rebellion, and we really get to see inside her mind. It's really, really interesting and intense. Her kind of imagining what will happen. Yeah, trying to be calm, trying to be this great leader, but really her human fears kind of taking over. She's imagining what happens if the raid on the Death Star does work out. What happens if the Star destroys Yavin? Just her vision of her like hiding out in the radiation belt of black hole in her shuttle as she's slowly being hunted down. It's chilling. And it's I think it's absolutely fantastic. Honorable mention to the files, since I put that as best piece of media, since I didn't understand that you wanted like a actors for the portrayal. I absolutely love the files. I love all books in this kind of book series. Rebel Files is one of the only ones that's canon, so that's cool too. And it kind of has the other half of the yin and yang of Star Wars, you could say, where it really goes into the nitty gritty lore, um, kind of the lore details of her involvement in the rebellion, which I always appreciate as well.
So mine is the Rebel Files. Mine is the Rebel Files.
Oh,
For a lot of the same reasons that Jacob said, the Rebel Files is, I think, the best of those books, and it's I think the only one that's canon. No shade to the other ones. I think the other ones are fantastic too. But
yeah,
seeing the ground up foundation to from foundation to victory at Yavin to victory at Endor is like is incredible to see, and to hear Mothma's personal thoughts about how she builds the rebellion is fascinating, and I really hope we see more of that in Andor, and that's one of the things I'm most excited for in Andor. And absolutely, if you have not read the Rebel Files, read the Rebel Files. They're fantastic, written so well. Um, yeah. Three best allies. You wanna go with your number three?
yeah. Quick aside, actually, just something that's a very interesting fun fact. Food for thought. If you will, the Imperial Handbook, which is the I think the predecessor to this in terms of the chronology of the or the way that they were released.
Yeah.
The Imperial Handbook is actually very unique because it was released after the Legends canon split, after the Disney takeover in 2014, after it was all finalized. But Becker and Meyer actually confirmed that it is not in fact canon.
It's
And I
Legends.
believe there's also yeah, it's Legends, and I believe there's also another the Smuggler's Handbook, I think, came out as well. I actually haven't read that
Oh
one,
yeah, the Smuggler's
but
Handbook is canon. Yeah,
this
it's very good
Smuggler's
too.
Files canon. There's it's interesting. This might be the only series, like the only continual series that's not like a remake or a reboot in Star Wars that straddles Legends and canon as one product. It's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that you were sorry for that.
No, no, it's good. So what's your third?
My best allies.
Yeah, third best ally.
Third best ally, I am going to go with Bail Organa. I'm a big
Really,
fan. Yeah, I'm a big Bail Organa fan.
as
I just
number
think
three.
from what I've seen of you know what? No. I'm amending my list. I think given what we see of them, I'm gonna put Leia as number three. Obviously Leia, fantastic character. But in relation to Mon Mothma, I don't think she has quite as much importance. So I'm gonna go with Leia because it was very cool to see their relationship grow and how they go back all the way from the rebellion, the early stages of the rebellion, Leia's childhood, all the way to Path and late Vader and all the drama.
I'm gonna go with Henry Underholt. Henry
Mm.
Underholt as my number three from the Rebel Files. She's the personal aide and attaché to Mothma, and she shares a lot of her personal thoughts about the rebellion with Underholt, who is like the canon writer of Rebel Files, and seeing Underholt and Mothma's relationship grow and develop in turn with the rebellion. And that book is just fantastic. Who's your number two?
My number two is going to be Padme Amidala.
Ah,
In
yes,
the because they both, they kind of overlap a lot in the Clone Wars. The delegation of 2000, the secret meetings, all that stuff. It's very cool to get to see them work together, and it comes up a lot in a lot of the Senate focused episodes of the Clone Wars. So it's cool to see.
absolutely. My second one is indeed Leia Organa. Seeing Mothma as Leia's mentor and friend, And seeing how the two of them communicate together and really make a good team is one of my favorite pairings in canon. I love the mentor role that Mothma was able to play in Leia's life. Uh,
Well said. Very well said. Speaking of good pairings, my number one, Bail Organa.
okay, let's just stop right now. It's my number one too. Shocker.
Okay. Okay, shocker. Big shocker. Obviously, I guess you could kind of call them the two parents of the Rebel Alliance, really. Getting to see them work together, their different styles of leadership. Bail, what he does, and then Mothma, where they come together, where they kind of diverge a little bit. It's really interesting to see, Mothma, her decision to stay in the Senate, as long as she does. It's really fascinating, and I do hope that we get to see a little bit more of them, together in Andor. Um, Although I wouldn't bank on it.
Absolutely, I love the two of them together. They make such a good pairing, especially Genevieve and Jimmy Smits as Mothma and Vale. I mean, there's no one else to have played Vale. I mean, except for an animation where he was voiced by Phil Lamar, who was also great. But seeing live action Jimmy and Genevieve in both Revenge of the Sith and Rogue One, a Star Wars story, and I'm crossing my fingers that Jimmy Smith will be in Andor because he was in Kenobi as well. But we'll see about that. Seeing them as a team is fantastic. They both have this incredibly idealistic side and a pragmatic side at the same time, which is awesome. And I love that. I think you know this. This was in Princes of Alderaan. That they circulated rumors to have of the two of them having an affair to get the Empire's eyes off of the rebellion.
Yes, I did. I did. That was very interesting. I think it's
Which,
kind of it's alluded to in Leia when Tarkin comes to dine with them. It's fascinating.
it's awesome. And also, honestly, had Brea not been in the picture for Bale, I ship it. Okay, I'm gonna say it. I ship it. Like I could see it.
Personally, I couldn't see it, but obviously it's a friendship. At the very least, it's a
Absolutely.
friendship. It's an alliance for the ages
A-
between
a-
those two.
Absolutely, and their relationship is as strong as it can be. And there is that scene that breaks my heart in Rogue One every single time, where Bale tells Mon he's heading back to Alderaan, and that's the last time they'll ever see each other because of
Yeah,
Alderaan's destruction only days later.
yeah, that hits. That
Yeah.
hits.
Um,
Um,
let's do three best enemies. You want to go uh, first
yeah.
with your third one?
From everything that I've read and watched with Mon Mothma, I had a bit of a difficult time
Yeah.
the picking because she can come face to face with a lot of her enemies. So for number three, I will say Palpatine, just because
Interesting.
of her time in the Senate, and kind of when he was still trying to do that political role of having the rubber stamp Senate, basically, as these figureheads, and how she was kind of just being a thorn in his side and confounding him. Although it's more, at least from all the media that I've seen, it's more kind of alluded to than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. My third one, and again, two of these I wouldn't call enemies; I'd call adversaries. More,
Mm.
they're more an adversarial. But the first one is from Legends. His name, he's a Bothan senator named Borsk Felaya.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and he was very influential in the Rebel Alliance, especially in in the years after the Battle of Endor. Um, and he had a very like Boffins have a very interesting personality, and they're very I don't know exactly how to describe it, but they have a sense of ego that other species do not. They they of course have their famous spy net. Many Bothans died to bring us this information, of course. He was very it was very egocentric and self-serving guy, and he wanted to gain greater power in the New Republic and in the Rebel Alliance, um, and it and Mothma often had difficulty dealing with Felaya's machinations, and it's an interesting relationship, and it goes for a long time because Felaya died 27 years after Yavin. So this happens a long, long, long time uh, in Legends, and it's interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. So my number two pick, I'm going to go with Halle Bertoni, the
Yeah.
what's her name? The Kaminoan kind of pro-war warhawk
Yeah.
senator.
By the way, let's take a
Um,
second to talk about how Star Wars is totally not political, and yet we have Halle
yeah,
Bertoni as a name.
definitely not political. No way. No way, Jose. But they're kind of again, it's not super direct because Padme is often the focus of these episodes of the Clone Wars, the political episodes, or I guess they're all political to some extent. The Senate intrigue episode of Clone Wars is kind of the focus, and Moth takes a secondary role. But their rivalry, it's certainly there, and it's really interesting. It's just cool to see kind of often the more political side of Star Wars, the the Senate debates, the corruption, the massive amounts of money that are involved. Like I like the moment when I can't remember which episode it is, but I think like Padme is giving a speech, Mon Mothma was behind her, then Halle Bertoni comes in and is like, "No, you guys are all wrong. I recommend we order 5 million more clone troopers. Send trillions of credits to my home planet, the planet that I represent. Nothing suspicious here. Nothing at all.
No, no, nothing, nothing,
They're just
nothing.
kind of polar opposites. Yeah.
Um, yeah, absolutely. What was I gonna say? Um, yeah, my number two is again not really an enemy, just more of an adversarial relationship, which is General Davith Draven in Rogue One, and I hope we see more of Draven. We see more of Alistair Petria's Draven, but again, this was not really direct, but very much Mothma ordered Cassian to do a lot of different things during Rogue One, and Draven often ordered the opposite, disobeying his commander. And we see, and I hope we'll see this more in Andor, a little bit more of the less noble side of the Rebel Alliance. And it's that interesting balance between Mothma and Draven. They're not really enemies or adversaries. They just represent different sides of the scale of the Rebel Alliance. Um, and it's interesting to see that rivalry play out. Um, on how far you should go to achieve victory. There's another rebel character I'm sure we'll talk about later who has that who has that differing philosophy. But go on to your number one.
My number one pick, hard to even call this an enemy, but I am gonna have to go with Saw Gerrera because
Yeah,
of their clashes in Rebels. Obviously, Saw, shows up on the giant hologram, starts yelling at the rebels on Yavin, starts, "Oh, you're not going hard enough, you're not doing this, you're not doing that," and then Mon Mothma comes out, and I mean, there's a lot there to talk about. We could probably spend an hour, unpacking, their differences and their ideological differences and their back and forth. But it's yeah, it's really interesting, the different ways that they choose to run their rebellions, and it makes me more ad it makes me admire Mon Mothma as character more, the way that she really knows how to use restraint, and kind of sensing and ideas to Saw, who's kind of just screw you, let's go blow shit up. And that's his
Yeah,
whole MO.
absolutely. Um, what was I gonna say? Uh, yeah, but my number one was Palpatine. My number one was Palpatine. I love the how opposite they are in terms of political stuff because Mothma is an extremely selfless person, and Palpatine is an extremely selfish person. You know, I would say that somebody like Luke or Rey is Palpatine's complete opposite in the Force, but in terms of politics, I'd say it's Mothma or someone like Leia, um, who, you know, she is that crusading freedom fighter, and it's always those two faces up against each other. It's the the face of tyranny of Palpatine versus the face of rebellion and freedom, Mothma, and I think it's really interesting. She calls out the Emperor herself in the Declaration of Rebellion, and I think their relationship, if you could even call it that, is very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Very well said. What we got next? Five best moments.
Five best moments. Let's do this. Go ahead with your number five. Let's do this.
Yeah, again, mine aren't really in any particular order, but I'm gonna go with the Dantooine speech in The Ghost when she unites the rebel cells. I think that very um voice acting standpoint, absolutely incredible. It's a huge moment, for her, and if you're able to like follow her journey through the different books, the movies, little snippets, the tidbits of what we get of her, and then it's a huge moment for the Ghost crew, and for the rebellion as well. Knowing that this is what spurs unity, her kind of Mon Mothma finally saying, you know what, screw it, we have to do this. The time is now. We have to engage the Empire in open warfare, which throughout Rebels and even Rogue One is kind of something that a lot of people, a lot of the rebels are really scared of, and rightfully so. But that moment when she finishes her speech, and then one by one the ships kind of start dropping out of hyperspace all around them. It's incredible. It's a good moment.
Absolutely. My number five is her first appearance in Rogue One, where she lays out the mission for Cassian. I think it was a very commanding performance from Genevieve O'Reilly after not having been in the role for over 10 years. And I think it's a great return for Senator Mothma as a character, especially. Um, Number four.
Number four, Mon Mothma's contingency plan. Basically her and contingency plan. It's an amazing moment for her. She even as the rebels are gambling everything on destroying the Death Star, she's still got the backup plans. She's gonna send out the coded messages. She's got the safe houses. And in a more personal sense, just her grappling with the rebellion, and how much is riding on so few people, what she kind of her thing about what she's asking of the people involved, of the people she's recruiting, of the people of the galaxy, what how much she's really asking them to stand up to a force as tyrannical and terrifying and ruthless as the Empire. It's a really great moment for her.
Absolutely. My number four is the delegation of 2000 meetings. The deleted scenes from Revenge of the Sith. Um, and I think it's a bunch of really powerful meetings, especially the ones with Mon and Bail, and specifically Padme, because Padme is very reluctant about the ideas that Mothma and Bail are preaching at first, but I really think it's through their persuasiveness and through uh, their rhetoric that Padme is convinced that this is what needs to be done about Palpatine and his growing power in the Republic.
Absolutely. Number three, her kind of standing up to Saw Gerrera in Rebels. Saw Gerrera, he's talking big talk, he's talking a lot of smack, and then all of a sudden, mild mannered, calm Mon Mothma just snaps, and she puts her foot down. And she says, "No, enough is enough." And she really explains her ideology brilliantly. She says like if we stoop, basically she says like if we stoop to the Empire's level, then we're no better than they are. It's not just why you fight, it's not just what you're fighting for, it's how you fight that makes a difference. Because she's not just like, unlike Saw, she's not just trying to create chaos and burn the Empire to the ground. She wants to create something better after all the fighting is said and done, which is more difficult to do. But yeah, a masterful performance, Genevieve O'Reilly. Another tremendous for her.
Number three for me. The Emperor has made a critical error, and the time for our attack is now. 26 and a half seconds is all Mon Mothma needs to make an impact in Return of the Jedi. And I just freaking love everything around that, too. So the Endor briefing is my number three.
Endor briefing. Okay. My
Uh,
number,
yeah, go ahead.
before the Battle of Scarif, her decision to not commit the full rebellion to raid on Scarif, in that big meeting, is a really interesting and cool moment to me. Although she authorized the mission to rescue Jin, Urso, she knew about the Death Star, she knew it was at stake. She really, as as this character often does, Mon Mothma, she really read the room correctly and made a very good choice. Realized maybe the rebel leaders, they're genuinely frightened. She realized she had limited power, even as the leader. The Rebel Alliance still in its infancy. She didn't want to become a tyrant like Palpatine, ordering different groups around. Um, and eventually, rebel groups did come to help the cause. Obviously, Admiral Radis and more. Um, but Mon Mothma knew it's better for morale. It's better for recruiting, for the motivator of the rebellion to be hope and courage, and having that courage to do the right thing, rather than just having strict discipline under the threat of punishment. So I think it
Absolutely.
was a really, it's another one of those moments that I think it's one of those classic Mon Mothma moments, like in Rebels, in Zero Hour, where she has to make a choice that, it certainly doesn't look good. It certainly doesn't seem like the obvious thing to do, but it is the correct decision, or it is a correct decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so, my number two is her argument with Saw Gerrera in the Name of the Rebellion Part One. I often remember Saw's quote from that, which is, "If you continue to fight on the Empire's terms, you are going to lose." But Mon Mothma delivers an excellent rebuttal to that. And I think it's interesting. Like again, it's about why and how we fight, which is it's an essential theme to Star Wars Rebels. And I think Mothma puts a really nice bow on it. Um, uh, in this scene that, yeah, Saul wants to burn the Empire to the ground. Saul wants to take out the Empire at any cost. But what will he become if he does that?
Yeah, exactly.
Who will he be as a person if he does that? Uh, they will fight and they will kill if necessary Mon Mothma's rebellion, but they will not do things like kill civilians. They will not do things like torture. They do not believe that that is humane, and they won. They won off of that. Uh,
It is.
and so no, I really I really quite enjoy that scene.
Absolutely. So my last moment, it's a bit of a strange one, bit of a complicated story. But basically, Mon Mothma kind of saves the galaxy from the Empire with a fruit. So in Aftermath, Mon Mothma, now Chancellor of the Republic, gets word that the Imperial remnants are massing on Jakku. And fearing an attack, she convenes the Senate and holds a vote for military action for the new republic, basically the rebranded alliance military, to wipe out the remainder of the empire and secure the new republic. The fail, however, because Senator Wartall, a rival senator, was leading a group of senators to vote against the military action. So she ends up riding with Wartol to the Republic's new capital at the time of Nakadia to buy time for her friends to investigate the 5 senators who are being led by Wartol to vote against. The ship is stopped by security ships over the planet. Ortol is furious because he's being held up, and he was supposed to meet with his co-conspirators before a second vote. But the security search of the ship will take hours. When Wartol demands to know why the ship is being searched, security says the scanners picked up an illegal fruit on board. And since Nakadia has a very delicate ecosystem, they have to be very careful about uh, what species they bring to the planet's surface. Ortol says he knew about this and he made sure there was nothing illegal on board and it must be a mistake. At which point Mon Mothma, ignorant, pulls out a pit fruit from her pocket and says that she forgot about it. And while they wait, while Wartol can do nothing but steam and smolder as he's been outplayed by Mon Mothma, Mon Mothma's friends successfully find that the other senators were being paid off, and upon exposing this, they get enough votes to pass the emergency resolution to take military action against the Empire.
That is fantastic. That is incredible.
It is one of the most twisting and turning ones. One of these moments that I unraveled, but it's pretty great. It's pretty great.
I'll just read my number one moment from Senator Mothma to you, just because I think it deserves to be read in its entirety. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right.
Let's do this. I'm trying to find it in my sheet. Here we go. This is Senator Mon Mothma. I've been called a traitor for speaking out against a corrupt galactic senate, a senate manipulated by the sinister tactics of the Emperor. For too long, I've watched the heavy hand of the Empire strangle our liberties, stifling our freedoms in the name of ensuring our safety. No longer. Despite Imperial threats, despite the Emperor himself, I have no fear as I take new action. For I am not alone. Beginning today, we stand together as allies. I hereby resign from the Senate to fight for you. Not from the distant halls of politics, but from the front lines. We will not rest until we bring an end to the Empire, until we restore our Republic. Are you with me? This, my friends, this is our rebellion. The Declaration of Rebellion over Dantooine at the end of Secret Cargo. Watch Secret Cargo. It is one of the best episodes of Star Wars Rebels ever, and it's one of the most galactic. It's one of the most galactically important episodes of Star Wars Rebels, or Star Wars television, just really ever. It's fantastically written. Matt Miknovitz is the writer behind that, and he's just he writes great stuff. But this is really one of his magnum opuses in terms of Star Wars. It is fantastic, and I love it. Yeah, and I think that concludes our Character Appreciation Day on Senator Mothma. Anything else before we go? I think, let's see, next week on Star Wars in a Galaxy, let's see what we're doing next week. Shouldn't we? We should see what we're doing next week.
Yeah, let's do it.
Next week, we're finally doing the thing. We're finally doing the thing. Next week, we are diving into the series premiere of Star Wars The Bad Batch Aftermath.
Oh boy.
So that will be out. So that will be out next week. In the meantime, I would like to announce something, which is that I recorded a guest spot a few days ago that I'm pretty sure will be out pretty soon after this episode comes out. I think probably a few days after that. Our friend of the show, good friend of the show, my personal friend in the Star Wars community, Mr. DeVore from A Large View of the Force, kindly invited me to be a part of his 41st episode. And I had a wonderful time talking about the greatest Star Wars novel ever to have been written. Of course, that is Adam Christopher's Shadow of the Sith. We had a great discussion about Shadow of the Sith. I raved about Bestoon Boy, I raved about Komat and Kiza and all the great characters. So if you want to check out me and DeVore geeking out over Shadow of the Sith, go check out A Larger View of the Force. It's a fantastic Star Wars podcast, friend of the show. And I'm really excited for not only the chance at me returning sometime, but Devore and I mentioned several times during the episode that we were sad that you couldn't make it, Jacob. And
Yeah.
Devore mentioned to me several times that he wants to have both of us on at one point.
Oh yeah.
So,
I'm sure
um,
that is obviously something that I would be very, very happy to do. That would be a
so,
lot of fun.
so yeah, I want to plug that. And of course, also, Epic Confrontations is gonna take a little hiatus until end of next month, where we are going to have Connor, the One-Eyed Knight Chakiti versus Andrew, the Grand Admiral Geha. Very excited for that match. But I think that's it. Do you have any other announcements, Jacob, before I wrap this up?
No, not at all.
Okay. Well, until next time, you can follow us on Twitter at InAGalaxyPod, our trivia account at InAGalaxy Trivia, Instagram at Star Wars in a Galaxy. You can listen to us on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts. We will be there. If we're not, email us, as well as email us with any of your questions or hot takes or anything. swinagalaxy@gmail.com. Leave a 5-star review and rating on leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify if you can. It really does help with our visibility. And until next time, may the Force be with you always.